In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. In the beginning of turn 1, we very quickly realized just how long this game could and would probably take. In all honesty, when preparing for this, we had no idea that it was going to take nearly as long as it did. Turn 1 was, well, not very much and not very entertaining. We did a few bulk shots at each other, but no real damage was ever really truly seen. As the game progressed, you will see what I mean. As both Warlord Copperhead and the Sneaky Git started off their first turns, I began mine. I was very simple, moving slowly toward the enemy, using my machines and dealing a good amount of damage within the first turn. But at the same time, it wasn't. Warlord Copperhead, within his first turn, had reached my Gazgul, and of course had done some damage, which would come back to haunt me in the long run. As you will most likely see, I did not prepare for this very well. Instead of keeping my Gazgul well guarded, I instead put him in the forefront of the lines. As the game slowly progressed, we realized that the Gigas Squiggoth was our true enemy, for both me and Copperhead. As we realized this, it was already slowly, but surely advancing through the field of battle, doing damage in its wake. Of course, we couldn't let this slide, so instead of letting it come to us, we went to it, both of us, at a truce. But that truce would not last for very long. As you see, orcs never make treaties. After all, it's such a hummy way of doing things. And as the dust started to settle around the first volley of attacks toward this gargantuous squith, we decided that, after all, why not just send one volley toward it? Why not send our entire force toward it? And so, as both me and Copperhead decided, we challenged the Gigas Squiggoth. We challenged it and took our entire armies toward it. After all, why not have just one half of our armies dedicated to it, when if we take it out, we stand a better chance at facing down more fair odds of each other. And while it may be true I may not have the gunpowder or manpower to face such a gargantuan creature by myself, with the help of other orcs, I could simply help them and destroy our mutual enemy. But as the battle slowly progressed, it became obvious that neither of us were going to keep our treaty. Neither of us really wanted to end up just us two. So instead of fighting one-on-one, facing the odds, Gazgul versus Gazgul, in the end, we decided why not both of us split our armies and focus on the closest of enemies, which, in all honesty, was probably the smartest of ideas, as both our enemy and our friends were both enemy and friend, you see. As the third round and third turn came, I realized that my army was not completely ready for this. It was not, as some might put, ready to face down 4,000 points of orc chaos. But, as one might imagine, I realized that the other two were also not up to par against 4,000 points. And so I tried to use this to my advantage. But they quickly saw through that, and both of them realized that while sure we are all at a disadvantage against 4,000 points, it was also the best way to become better to strategize with bigger opponents, to strategize against what was to come, what could come, in fact. And this is when a fated idea started to develop, an idea that would cost me my favorite and most precious orc, my favorite and my most precious being in my army, my favorite little grot boy who realized his dream of becoming a war boss. After all, you can't have just one Gazgul on the field battle another. What would be the fun in that? But as my Gazgul had sustained damage, I decided, why not try to attack another? The Squig Hog Rider Gaz, from a different dimension, from a different timeline. One in which Gaz had been brought up as a snakebite. But of course my attempts were met in vain. And as one might expect, more damage was tried to bring on the Squig Hog riding snakebite of a Gazgul. After all, he had more than enough power to take on our entire army. After all, he was Gaz on a squig. Why not try to take out this abomination of a Gazgul Thraka? As one might expect, normal boys do not dwell great against your average Squig Hog Rider. But of course, this was no ordinary Squig Hog Rider. This was Gazgul riding on a super squig. And so the damage was dealt. And of course, another orc clan fell to the fact that they were just ill-prepared and could not face another squig on, well, with Gaz, I should say. And as that third turn wound down and the fourth was beginning, it was time for the Gaz Royale, where all of our Gazes were mysteriously teleported to the center stage of the field, and time around them was paused. After all, there could only be one Gazgul Thraka. And of course, the richest of your Gazguls was the first to die. Then the Squig Hog Rider. But for some reason he could explode. Who would have thought? But of course he didn't, and the winner was the Shadow. And as the game continued, we challenged the Squig Hog that was, well, just abnormally large. After all, we wanted it dead, we wanted it down, and we wanted it to die a slow, painful death. But, unluckily for us, the Space Marines were starting to appear over the ridge, taking us down one by one. And slowly, we realized that if we did not leave, this battle would continue until all of us were dead. And so we decided to leave. After all, we couldn't have just one Gazgul Thraka left. There was others we could teleport in from other timelines. And so, we decided to convene again someday. But of course, we wanted to take out the Squiggoth. And so for now, we decided to come to a treaty. We take this gargantua Squith, and we keep it as our own until the next Waaagh appeared. Then, and only then, could we fight with it. and if any force used it without permission, it would cause another civil war.